I was wondering, how do you approach a manager if you are a junior attorney? And again, to both of your points, if you're looking to grow, yeah, you're right, privacy is probably the best example, like to grow into maybe being a privacy attorney or to expand skills in a different area. How would you approach that conversation? And whoever wants to tackle it first.
Yeah, I would say I love this question. And it's something I wish I had mentoring on earlier in my career. And now that I look back, there are things I would have done differently. I think part of it is just honestly just getting over the fear of how will my manager or, my skip level manager perceive me if I suddenly ask for something else. Because I think I personally held fear that if I ask for that, that's going to mean that I'm unhappy or something else. I would say the number one thing is just go and do it, because you're putting yourself out there and they don't, they can't read your mind, right? They don't know what you might be interested in. So just the act of putting yourself out there, and sometimes maybe the words don't come out and it might be, awkward. You do it one time, like give yourself a pat in the back, because as you continue to evolve in your career, you're going to get more and more polished in terms of in a way that feels authentic to you on how do you ask for that responsibility. But I think the first barrier is just go and show up, however awkward those words come out, do it. And most managers, good managers, will perceive that well. Why? Because a manager like me, and I'm in a smaller team now, I really appreciate fluidity in my team. So if somebody tells me, hey, they're interested in this, we're going to try and look for space to create that space for that individual and to be able to cultivate the skill set, because you never know when we may need to move somebody strategically into that particular area. And the other thing I'll say is, if the manager, if you get the sense as a junior lawyer, you have this conversation and you get this big no, well, that's a good point of information for you to have to say, okay, well, and listen to, and sometimes between reading the lines, as to why are they saying no? Is it a legitimate reason? Maybe because right now the work within your own team is just so high. Maybe it's a point of time they say, hey, we can't do it right now, but in 6 months, I'd love to keep talking to you about that. That's one response versus just a blatant no, like that's never going to happen for you. Like forget about it. That's a very different message. And again, that's a point of data, I think, for the junior attorney to think about as they're thinking about what is next in their career. And I'd be curious to hear what Frank says about it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that response.
Same here.
I think it's all spot on. It really resonates with me. I think earlier on in my career, someone told me you need to own your own career. Don't wait for others to jump in. And so because of that, I tried to raise my hand for, stretch projects when I was a junior lawyer. And so even if you don't have an idea of what that is, raise your hand, keep raising your hand, because as a manager, I see someone that's eager to take on more work and more responsibility. I really appreciate that, because you're going to get into situations where there's a project that has to be done next week. It's going to take 100 hours, whatever it is, right? I'll have to jump in, all hands on deck. And I know that person is going to be committed. So raise your hands, even to Gulzar's point, even if you don't know what it is that you want to do, raise your hand and let your manager help guide you. And if your manager isn't receptive, then yes, that's a great data point to have to make a decision on, whether that's the right role or not. And then personally, what I do with my team is everyone that comes in, try to ask them, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? What skills do you think you need to get there? And we have those conversations. As a manager, I feel like it's one of my responsibilities to help train them for the role, but also just train them for their career wherever they go. Hopefully they stay within our team and the company. But if not, then I think it's responsibility to help them get where they want.
This is awesome advice. I really appreciate this advice because, again, younger attorneys, like this is a conversation we all have internally. We're all like, well, I want to learn more in these areas, especially certain I love using privacy because it's such a hot area right now, and we don't know how to approach that subject with the manager. So this is very helpful, and it's helpful also as a manager to understand that folks are going to be asking these questions, are going to want to expand their practice, are going to want to grow in these roles, and this is how you approach it. These are how good managers approach these things.
And
Oh,
Matt,
sorry.
can I add
Yeah,
just one more thing?
of course.
Just on the flip side of it, because there are times when your manager might come to you with a stretch assignment.
Sure.
And you may be feeling, let's say, like, oh my gosh, for real, like either A, I like the job I'm doing, or I'm just really overwhelmed right now. Like, for real, am I going to have to do the stretch assignment? What is going on with them? Why are they asking me this? Just the advice, especially for the junior lawyers, to be open to that, because you just never know what doors it might open for you. And it's very real, though, to have a conversation to say, I have so much going on right now. What's going to come off my plate in order for me to be able to do this stretch assignment? That's a conversation definitely to be had, because burnout is real.
Oh, yeah.
But to be open-minded, because I've had scenarios in my career where, it might be the manager, right, who is going to have a conversation around, hey, I want to stretch you. And sometimes people have very different reactions to whether or not they want to be stretched. And I think, again, I've been guilty of, at one point in my career, manager wanted to give me a stretch opportunity, and I was like, I can't do this right now. I have so much going on. And I learned a lot from that. And turns out that my leader was thinking the right way, and I should have been doing that stretch opportunity. And I did do it begrudgingly. So I wish I hadn't done it so begrudgingly, because it did end up opening doors for me. And so she had the foresight at that moment in time that I didn't, right? Because she was, more senior, more seasoned than I was, to give me this opportunity as a junior lawyer. And I was like, oh, like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And I still did it. And I saw the benefit of it. And on the flip side, as a manager too, I've had to have those conversations as well. And I can relate and say, hey, when I was in your seat, I know I had this similar reaction, but this is why we're doing it. So just an encouragement to be open-minded when your leadership comes to you with a different assignment or a new assignment.
That's why I changed my practice. I was in a AGC for a government agency, and they needed some help on a procurement for the procurement department, effectively an attorney to assist them. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I don't care. I'm like, I'm a young attorney. Like, I was, generally speaking, I was more of a litigator. And I'm like, I would love to learn about how to manage the procurement process of, the RFPs, the RFQs, like really bid protests, what have you. And every day I'm thankful that I had enough coffee to be able to handle it. To your point, like, I was begrudging at some level, right? Because I was a little tired. There was a lot going on, but I couldn't agree more being in that position and changing my practice. So always, say yes. Like, and at least if you're not going to say yes, or you're like really hesitant saying yes, at least have the conversation and understand why, like, make it work. If there's a way you can make it work, then make it work. I think it's the best way to put it.